I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I'd been with my girlfriend, Jessie, for 3 years. She was 25, smart, funny, beautiful, you know, the kind of person you could talk to for hours and still never get bored. Things were great for the most part. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but nothing that seemed all that unusual. At least, not at first. But then came that one conversation that started messing with my mind in ways I couldn't even begin to understand at the time. It happened just after we'd spent an afternoon at the park, strolling through the trees and laughing like idiots. I don't know, maybe that was her way of preparing me. But I'll never forget the moment she dropped the bomb. "Hey," she said, pulling me aside when we were on our way back to the car. "I just wanted to tell you something." I wasn't expecting anything serious, just another one of those "hey, I was thinking about something today" talks. I shrugged, not thinking much of it. "What's up?" She took a deep breath, like she was gearing up to say something heavy. "I don't want to get married," she said flatly, looking away. My brain didn't even register the words at first. "Wait, what?" I mean, we talked about marriage before, casually, of course, but it was clear we were both open to it someday. So hearing her say that, with zero preamble, hit me like a punch in the gut. It wasn't a simple "I don't think I'm ready yet" kind of thing. No. She was telling me, straight up, that she had no interest in marriage. At all. I just blinked at her, trying to make sense of it. Was she serious? Was this some kind of test? A joke? "Wait, what do you mean?" "Like, ever?" She nodded, her gaze shifting to the ground like she couldn't bear to meet my eyes. "Yeah, not really something I want. I don't see the point of it. It's just a piece of paper, you know?" I could feel the knot in my stomach tightening. This wasn't the casual "not right now" answer I expected. She was shutting the door. Hard. I mean, yeah, marriage wasn't the ultimate goal for everyone, but when you're in a long-term relationship, you kind of think you'll end up on the same page about big stuff like this. It just felt off. Like I was standing at a crossroads I didn't even know existed until I stumbled upon it. "Okay, but are you sure? I mean, I thought we were good, you know?" I said, my voice a little shaky. She nodded, giving me a sad smile. "I'm sure. It's just not something I want." I stood there, trying to digest everything. That conversation felt like a slap in the face. We'd been talking about the future so many times, making plans, and suddenly, boom, everything I thought I knew about her and us felt like it was slipping through my fingers. But Jessie was the love of my life, right? I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe this was just her way of dealing with some kind of personal fear about commitment. So, I tried to shake it off. I tried to believe her when she said it wasn't about me, that it wasn't personal. But deep down, that voice in my head kept nagging at me, something's not right here. I didn't want to admit it, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Weeks passed after that conversation. Things were normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Jessie and I continued going out, having dinner, spending time with each other like we always had. But every time I thought about marriage, or even just our future together, I'd feel that unease creeping back in. Something didn't add up. And then came that moment, that one day that I'll never forget, when everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was scrolling through my phone while I waited for Jessie to get ready. I'd just gotten a notification from my email. A random one at first, but then I saw it, an email with the subject line "Visa Application Status Update." It didn't take much to realize what that was about. My stomach dropped as I opened it. And there it was, in black and white, "Fiancé Visa Application." My mind went into overdrive. I had to read it again, just to make sure I wasn't seeing things. But no! It was real. she'd filed for a fiancé visa without telling me. Jessie, who'd told me just weeks before that she didn't want marriage, was secretly planning to move forward with something that, to me, was the exact opposite. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever, my heart pounding. What the hell was going on? Why hadn't she told me about this? Why had she kept it a secret? And more importantly, who the hell was she really? I didn't know what to do with the information I had. It was like someone had just dropped a bomb on me, and I was too stunned to even flinch. I mean, I had this email in front of me, a legal document that proved she was doing something behind my back. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. I couldn't let this slide. I needed answers. I closed the email and tried to shake the sick feeling in my stomach. Jessie was in the other room, getting ready to head out to meet her friends. I stood there, staring at the phone in my hand. My fingers hovered over the screen, unsure of whether to call her or wait. What if I was wrong? What if this was just some administrative mistake? Maybe it was for a different visa, one I had no idea about. I tried to tell myself that. But that voice in my head? The one that had been whispering doubts for weeks? Yeah, it was getting louder. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I dialed her number, pacing back and forth in the living room, waiting for her to pick up. When she did, her voice sounded light, like she was in a good mood. But that didn't make me feel any better. "Hey, what's up?" she asked. I could barely even form a sentence. My heart was beating way too fast for this to be a normal conversation. I took a deep breath. "Jessie, I need to ask you something. It's kind of serious." She paused. The silence between us was thick. I could almost feel her trying to read the tone of my voice. "Okay, what's going on? Why didn't you tell me about the fiancé visa?" I blurted out before I could second-guess myself. The air seemed to freeze between us. I could hear her breathing, slow and steady, but nothing else. No reaction. Not even a flinch. "Wait, what?" she asked, her voice a little too calm. "What are you talking about?" I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but her tone had shifted. There was a weird edge to it now. Like she wasn't quite as relaxed as before. That was when I knew she was hiding something. The way she had answered that question wasn't the response of someone who had nothing to hide. "I'm talking about the fiancé visa application, Jessie. I just saw the email. Why didn't you tell me?" I was starting to lose control of my emotions. The anger was bubbling up now, faster than I could contain it. "How could you keep this from me?" There was a long pause. And then, the words that came out of her mouth next? I wasn't ready for them. "I didn't think it was a big deal," she said, almost too casually. "I figured you wouldn't care. I figured you wouldn't care." The audacity. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. "What do you mean you didn't think it was a big deal?" "Jessie, we've been talking about our future for years. How is this not a big deal?" She sighed, and I could hear her moving around, probably sitting down on the couch or something. "Look, I didn't want to have this conversation right now, okay? You're freaking out over nothing. It's just paperwork. I didn't think it would change anything." I was fuming now. "Just paperwork? Are you kidding me right now? This is a huge deal. You've been planning something behind my back, and now you're acting like I'm overreacting?" There was a beat of silence, and I could practically feel the tension building on her end. Then, finally, she spoke again, her voice quieter this time, more defensive. "I didn't want to hurt you. That's why I didn't tell you." I couldn't believe it. "Hurt me?" "Jessie, this is hurting me. You've been lying to my face. All this time, you've been telling me that you don't want marriage, that it's not important to you, and now you've secretly filed for a fiancé visa? She didn't respond right away, but I could hear her breathing, like she was trying to hold it all together. I never lied to you. I just didn't want to make it into a big deal. I didn't want you to feel like I was pushing you into something. I shook my head, the disbelief and frustration overwhelming me. So what, you thought I'd just go along with this? You thought I wouldn't have questions? You think I'm stupid, Jesse? That hurt. That last part, when I asked if she thought I was stupid, I could feel it stabbing me in the chest. But I had to know. I couldn't sit around in the dark, pretending everything was fine anymore. She was quiet again for a long moment. I could tell she was trying to figure out what to say. And when she finally spoke, her words hit me like a cold slap. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should have told you sooner. But I wasn't sure how you'd react. And now I'm not sure what to do. The silence after that was almost unbearable. My head was spinning. Was she serious? Everything felt like it was spinning out of control, like I was in some crazy maze of lies and half-truths, and I had no idea how to find my way out. The days after that conversation felt like I was living in some kind of strange, emotional limbo. It was like the air had thickened between us. Every interaction was loaded with this unbearable tension, this unsaid thing that neither of us could just ignore anymore. Jesse and I tried to act like everything was normal. We went out to dinner a few times, grabbed drinks with friends, and joked around the way we always had. But there was this wall now, this invisible but heavy thing that hung between us, and no matter how much I tried to push it aside, it was always there, lurking in the background, ready to slam me back into reality. I couldn't stop thinking about that damn fiancé visa. Every time I looked at her, I kept wondering, what else is she hiding? The whole situation felt like a slow-burning fuse, and every time we sat down to talk, I could feel it inching closer to some kind of explosion I wasn't ready for. But the thing was, neither of us really wanted to face it head-on. At least, not until it was absolutely unavoidable. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt at first. I mean, maybe she was just overwhelmed by the idea of marriage and wanted to do things her own way. Maybe I was overreacting. But then the more I thought about it, the more it gnawed at me. She'd never been upfront with me about this. The following weekend, I found myself sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself. But I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting back to her. Jessie was in the kitchen, making coffee or whatever, humming like she didn't have a care in the world. It made me sick to my stomach. She was so casual about everything. Like she hadn't just completely upended our entire relationship with a single lie. I couldn't take it anymore. Jessie, I said, my voice low but heavy, I need you to explain something to me. She didn't turn around immediately, but I could see her shoulders tense up. She knew where this was going. I could feel it. What now? She asked, her voice strained but trying to sound light. I want you to tell me why you didn't just tell me about the fiancé visa. Why keep it a secret? Her back stiffened, and she set the coffee mug down with a little more force than necessary. I watched her breathe in deeply, like she was trying to hold it together. I didn't think it was important, she said again, but this time her voice wasn't as sure. I thought if I went through with it, things would just make sense later. We could talk about it when the time came. I couldn't believe it. Make sense later? Was she serious? Are you kidding me right now? Jessie, you don't just do something like that without talking to your partner first. We're supposed to be on the same page. Don't you get it? She turned around then, and I could see the frustration written all over her face. You don't get it, she snapped. I'm trying to get us a future, but every time I bring up anything serious, you shut it down. I was trying to avoid that. I didn't want to be the bad guy. Bad guy? I almost laughed, but it came out more as a frustrated exhale. You've been playing both sides this whole time. You've been telling me you didn't want marriage, and now you've gone behind my back and filed for a fiancé visa? How is that not being the bad guy? She was quiet for a moment, her eyes darting away from mine. She shifted uncomfortably, and I could feel the tension crackling in the room. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said quietly, as if it were some kind of apology. I didn't know what else to do. I thought, maybe if we just took things one step at a time, we could figure it out together. I shook my head, running a hand through my hair. You think this is something you can just sweep under the rug? You can't hide big things like this from someone you claim to care about. I thought we had an understanding. I thought we were building something together, and now I'm just lost. Her expression softened a little, but I wasn't sure if it was genuine or just an act. She stepped closer, her voice now lower, almost pleading. Please, just trust me. We'll figure this out, okay? I love you, and I'm not trying to ruin everything. I'm trying to protect us. I felt the anger bubbling up again, but this time, it was mixed with confusion. She said she loved me, but everything about her actions screamed the opposite. Was she really trying to protect me, or was she just protecting herself from the fallout of her own lies? I can't just ignore what's happening, Jesse, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I can't just pretend like nothing's wrong. I feel like you're playing some kind of game, and I don't know the rules. Her eyes flashed with something I couldn't quite read. Anger? Hurt? Maybe both. I'm not playing games. You're the one who doesn't get it. I stared at her, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on us, suffocating the space between us. Was this really it? Was this how it was all going to fall apart? That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I was done with all the guessing, the half-truths, and the endless back and forth. Something had to give. But the way Jessie was looking at me now, I couldn't tell if she was pleading or just waiting for me to drop the bomb and walk away. Her eyes were soft, but her body was tense, like she was bracing for something big. I could see her trying to figure out how far I was willing to push her, but I was done playing nice. Jessie, I said, my voice shaking but resolute, if this is how you've been handling things, I don't know what to believe anymore. We're supposed to trust each other, right? That's the whole damn point of being together. But you've been hiding this from me. This visa, this whole thing, it's like you've been living in a different reality, and I've just been a passenger in it, waiting for the truth to come out. I could feel the anger in my chest rising up, tight and raw. She took a step back, almost like she was bracing herself for impact, but I wasn't done. No, I couldn't let it go that easily. I can't just pretend like this isn't a huge betrayal. You've made decisions about our future, and you didn't think it was important enough to include me in it. How is that fair, Jessie? She opened her mouth, probably about to say something that would make this whole mess worse, but I cut her off. Don't even try to explain it away this time. Because you know what? I get it. I get that you wanted to take control of your life, to make your own decisions, but you don't do that by lying to someone who's supposed to be your partner. Her face twitched. Was that guilt? Fear? Whatever it was, I didn't care anymore. I was past caring. I needed the truth, and I needed it now. I wanted us to be okay. I thought maybe if I just went ahead with it, we could skip all the hard talks and get to the part where we're happy. Her voice cracked on the last part, and she looked away. She was avoiding my eyes now, but I could still see the tension in her shoulders, the way she clenched her fists. But I see now I screwed up. Screwed up. That was the understatement of the century. You think? I shot back. My voice was rising now, the words coming faster than I could control. You didn't screw up, Jesse. You betrayed me. You took something that should have been ours to decide together and turned it into your own personal project. She took another step back, her eyes starting to fill with tears. That pissed me off even more. She wasn't even looking at me, she was looking at the floor, like the weight of what I was saying was too much to handle. Why didn't you just talk to me? I demanded. If you'd said anything, if you'd told me how you were feeling, we could have worked through it. But instead, you made me look like the fool. Do you know how that feels? To be sitting here, thinking you're in this relationship with someone, and then realize they've been making plans behind your back the entire time? I didn't want to lose you, she whispered, barely audible. I stopped dead in my tracks. Lose me? That's what this was about? She thought that if she just went ahead and did it, we'd end up on the same page? That was her plan? So you thought keeping me in the dark would keep me around? I asked, my voice quiet, but the anger still simmering underneath. You thought making decisions without me would make me want to be with you? I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm still the same person, she said, her voice shaky. She finally met my eyes, but there was no conviction in her stare. I didn't mean for it to get so messy. You're right. It is messy. It's a damn mess, I said, shaking my head. And now, I don't even know if I can trust you. I thought you were the person I could build my future with, but now I can't even trust you to be honest with me. She reached out, almost like she was going to touch my arm, but then stopped. Please don't leave. Please, just listen for a second. I stepped back, pulling away from her touch. My heart was breaking, but there was no way I could let that stop me from saying what needed to be said. You don't get it, Jesse. It's not just about the visa or the marriage. It's about everything. You lied to me, and you've been lying to yourself. You didn't trust me enough to let me in on your plans, and now... I don't know how we get past that. She looked down again, and I could see the tears threatening to fall. But this time, I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel pity. I just felt done. Done with the lies, done with the secrets, done with trying to fix something that felt broken beyond repair. I don't know how we move forward from this, I said, my voice thick. And I'm not even sure I want to. The silence that hung between us was suffocating. We were both standing there, in the same room, but it felt like we were worlds apart. She said nothing. No defense, no explanation. Just silence. And in that silence, I finally understood. We were done. It wasn't until she left that I felt the full weight of everything crashing down. Jessie packed her things quietly, methodically, like she'd done it before. There was no shouting, no dramatic goodbyes, just the sound of a suitcase being zipped up, clothes rustling, and the door clicking shut behind her. I was left in the silence of our apartment, standing there like some kind of hollow shell. The anger I'd been carrying around for so long had faded into something else, something emptier. All that was left was this deep, gnawing feeling of betrayal. It wasn't just that she'd lied. It was that she hadn't trusted me enough to face the truth. I thought back to all the moments that felt so perfect between us, the laughter, the plans for the future, the late-night conversations about our dreams. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind to the fact that all those moments might have been built on lies? I could almost hear her voice in my head, telling me that she never wanted to hurt me. But how could I believe that now? How could I believe that she loved me when she'd been so willing to make such a huge decision without me, without even asking what I wanted? It was like everything I thought I knew about her had been peeled away, layer by layer, until I was left with a stranger. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that maybe I had been the fool, too. Maybe I hadn't been paying attention, hadn't been listening closely enough to the cracks that were already starting to form in our relationship. Maybe I'd been so desperate for things to work out that I ignored the signs that things were falling apart. As the days went by, I tried to keep myself busy. I went back to work, hung out with friends, and tried to act like everything was fine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, something I couldn't replace. I kept going through our old messages, our photos, trying to find something that would make sense of all of this. But every time I looked at them, it just hurt. It was like seeing a different person in those pictures, someone who had no idea what was coming. And then came the moment when the final piece clicked into place. I was sitting at a bar one night, just trying to drown out the chaos in my head with a drink, when I saw the email notification pop up on my phone. It was from Jessie. My heart nearly stopped. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know what she had to say. But something in me, something stubborn, told me I had to open it, had to see what she was still trying to say to me after everything that had happened. "I'm sorry" were the first words on the screen. I read the rest of the message with my stomach in knots, each word like another slap to the face. She told me she was leaving the country to go back to her family, that the visa had been approved, and that she'd made the decision to go forward with it because she felt like it was her only option. But here's the kicker, she said she had never meant for it to go this far. That she had been hoping things would just fall into place without having to deal with the mess. She told me she was sorry for not being honest, but that she couldn't fix what was already broken. The email ended with a simple, "I hope you'll forgive me someday." I stared at the screen, the words blurring together as my eyes welled up. Forgive her? How could I? How could I ever trust her again? I didn't know what to feel anymore. I felt angry, yes, but I also felt this overwhelming sadness, this grief, almost, for the relationship I thought I had. I'd invested so much of myself into us, into her, and now it felt like all of it had been a lie. But, as much as it hurt, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep clinging to someone who had already made her choice, someone who had already moved on without even saying goodbye. I had to let go. I had to start rebuilding my own life, separate from the illusion of what we had been. And so I did. Slowly and painfully, but I did it. I stopped checking my phone for messages from her, stopped thinking about her at every turn. It took time, but little by little, I started to heal. The anger didn't go away overnight, but it faded into something more manageable, something that didn't control me anymore. And one day, I woke up and realized that I had finally let go of the past. I wasn't the same person I had been when Jessie and I first met. I had learned, painfully, that trust and honesty are things you can't just take for granted. That love isn't about control or manipulation or doing things behind someone's back. It's about mutual respect, transparency, and, most importantly, trust. I didn't get the closure I wanted from her. I didn't get the answers I deserved. But I did get something better, the chance to rebuild my life. To move forward, to find someone who wouldn't hide parts of themselves from me, someone who would share the truth, no matter how messy it was. Jessie had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. And this time, I wasn't going to settle for anything less than the truth.